Hello everyone, I'm Craig and this is Running Cafe. So a few days ago I went on a pretty fun long run with my brother and his girlfriend. We clocked up 21 miles from Maidstone in Kent. We ran all the way to Cuxton in Medway along some pretty challenging diverse terrain. There were loads of steep hills, a lot of tricky technical trails, and at the end of it I wasn't actually that knackered. I was pretty tired but I wasn't physically exhausted. I could still function. And the next day I felt absolutely fine, and the day after that I was back to running. And it got me thinking a lot more about long runs. What are long runs? Well, there's no secret. A long run is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a run where you go for longer in your training than you'd ordinarily go for, and the main objective usually is to increase your physical fitness and to increase your performance on race day. All different types of runners will do long runs, from 5k runners all the way up to ultra runners doing 100-mile distances on a regular basis. And I personally find them one of the most enjoyable components of my routine. So I wanted to make a video about 9 tips for a successful long run so that you can make the most out of your training and enjoy this really important, fun element of a runner's training regime. Number 1, a really obvious one, but something that so many of us fall down at, myself included at times, and that is sleep. Getting enough sleep before your long run is essential, not only to be feeling mentally alert and awake, but also for physical performance. The Sleep Foundation recommend that healthy adults should have 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. I try to get 8 hours of sleep every single night. Before this, I tended to shortchange myself, and I thought that, the typical thing, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead, it's not that important. However, I read a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, a sleep scientist. I've got it here in French, and it really brilliantly breaks down exactly why sleep is important for humans, why it's important for not only mental function, but body repair, muscle repair, and also for sports performance as well. So if you're not convinced on the benefits of sleep, not just for running, but for life in general, I'd highly recommend that you read that book. But it's very important to ensure that before a long run, you get a decent night's sleep to make sure that you're recovered, ready to go for a decent long run. And also after your long run, you should make sure that you prioritize sleep as well. Try and go for 8 hours and make it non-negotiable. Number 2 is route selection. When choosing a long run route, I always consider 3 factors. Number 1 is distance. How far do you want to run? Make sure that that distance aligns with your particular goals. Number 2 is the terrain. Do you want loads of elevation over tricky technical terrain, or do you want to keep it flat and fairly easy, so on a road, for example? And thirdly, something that I think is very important is novelty. Ideally, you want to be mixing up the routes that you're running on, and you don't want to be running on the same routes week in, week out, day after day, month after month, because eventually you're just going to get bored of it. I know I certainly do. So I try and mix up the routes and run into new places and new locations whenever possible. If you're interested on running on new routes, I would highly recommend using a route building application like the Garmin Route Builder, available for those that have a Garmin watch, myself included, got my 945 Forerunner there. But there are many others that do exist out there, not just for Garmin, so check those out. Build a route and run in a new place. Route selection is very important for long distance training. Make sure that you have your route prepared and ready before heading out on your long run. Number 3 is gear, so make sure that you have all the needed equipment ready for your long run prior to going out the front door. Now, the gear that you need depends on a range of factors, like how close you're going to be to civilization and shops, how long you're going to be running for, what time of day you're going to be running for, and how fast you're going to be going for. So things to include for equipment include a pack, water bottles for hydration, space to put nutrition like energy gels, bars, tortilla wraps, a head torch and reflective clothing if you're going out at night, a fully charged mobile phone, earphones for if you're going to listen to something whilst you run, and along with the standard running gear like the top, jacket, shorts and shoes. And obviously make sure that your shoes align with whatever terrain you're going to be on. So if you're on a road, road shoes. If you're on the trail, trail shoes. Something I do is get all my kit ready the night before, lay it out, so all I have to do when I wake up is literally just put on my clothes, put on my pack, and go out the front door. It's really as simple as that. The last thing I want to be doing when I've just woken up, ready to go on a long run, is get everything ready and prepared. It's just something that I don't want to deal with before having to go on a long run, so I think it's better to get it all prepared the night before, ready to go. Number 4 is nutrition. Now, a long run will place significant demand on your body's energy stores, and it's important to make sure that you are fueled properly prior, during, and after your long run. So before my long runs, I like to have some porridge oats with a banana or two just to get some complex carbohydrates in there. That will tend to keep me going for quite a while. I'll then top that up with some energy gels and probably some Tailwind in my water bottles. And after the run, I'll prioritize protein to help with muscle repair and recovery. And I'll also prioritize carbohydrates to restock the depleted glycogen stores after the run. It's not essential, but having a good idea of what you're going to eat before, during, and after the run, prior to doing the long run, makes it a lot more enjoyable, and it takes the thinking out of the situation. When you're running, make sure you stay on top of nutrition. It's much better to drink and eat before you get thirsty or hungry than when you're thirsty and hungry and then you're actually in a situation where you're playing catch up, because by that point you're probably already a little bit dehydrated and you're probably lacking in terms of some kind of nutrient which is going to help you out if you're running. So drink and eat regularly and often, and you should be fine for the majority of your long run. Number 5, and something that I think is very important for long runs, is pacing. Now, a long run, like I've mentioned, is going to put a lot of strain onto your body compared to your ordinary running sessions. You're going to be running for further, for a longer time, and your body is going to expend more energy. Make sure you have some kind of plan for how fast you want to be going prior to your long run, and use a device like a watch to try sticking to that. Typically, long runs are not meant for running fast. They are meant for building up your endurance. So a really relaxed pace is what most runners tend to go for, especially if you're training for a long distance race like a marathon or an ultra marathon. However, one long run every once in a while, it might actually be suitable for you to be running very close to tempo, threshold pace, up in how fast you go, just to mimic the conditions on race day. I know that's a particularly good strategy for half marathoners and marathoners who want to go fast on race day. Number 6 is logistics, everything that goes around the long run to make it possible. So firstly, I want to talk about time. Make sure you allocate enough time to your long run training session. You don't want to cut it fine. Give yourself a window that is a bit unrealistic, so you end up rushing your long run. That's not what you want. You'll be at risk of injuring yourself and also not getting the enjoyment and the fun out of your long run training session, which is not what we want. So make sure you give yourself enough time to do the long run properly at your desired pace. Secondly, if you're doing a long run that is a point to point, so starting in one location and ending up in a very different location, make sure you have a means of getting home and all the things necessary to make that happen before setting out of the front door. So this might be checking the times for trains and buses in the town or village where you're running to. Make sure you bring some cash with you, use a debit card, use your card stored in your phone's wallet app, or you may actually have a friend or family member who can helpfully pick you up from the point where you're running to. Make sure you've got it all planned out beforehand so that you're not met with any surprises at the end of your long run when you're already tired from the run. The last thing you really want is to be sorting out how to get home after having run 15, 20, 25 miles in an opposite direction from where you started from. Believe me, from experience, this is not a fun situation to be in, guys. Number 7 is to have something to listen to. Have music, podcasts, audiobooks downloaded on your fully charged mobile phone with some headphones ready to go should you want to listen to something during your run. Now, this is a purely optional one. Not everybody wants to be listening to something whilst they're running on their long run. They're more than happy to enjoy the sounds of their environment, but it's much better to have and to not want than to want and to not have. So make sure that you have some means of listening to an audiobook, music, or a podcast during your long run. And it's also nice to actually just catch up on your favourite podcasts and listen to some interesting ideas in an audiobook where you've got a massive chunk of free time dedicated. Number 8, it's a bit of a woolly one, but that is to have fun, guys. Remember that we do running because we love it, we enjoy this sport, and we want to make sure that we make the most out of our training. So take your time, enjoy the sights and sounds of wherever it is you happen to be running. Try running with others, friends, family, colleagues. Make some fun memories, take some photos, and just enjoy yourself. Because for me, long runs are where I have some of my favourite running moments, particularly when I'm doing a trail long run with some beautiful scenery and environments to be enjoying as I run. Number 9, perhaps the most important on this list, and it ties very closely in with the nutrition and the sleep point, and that is recovery. Make sure that you prioritise recovery after doing a long run. A long run, as I've mentioned, is a massive demand on your body. It puts you through your paces, and you need to make sure that you eat properly, drink properly, sleep properly, and give yourself enough break before starting running again after the long run, just to make sure that you are 100% recovered and you're stronger after your long run. A point made by British ultra runner Tom Evans on a podcast that I recently listened to is that recovery should be prioritised because that is where your body is getting stronger. This is true. When you run, you actually create micro tears in your muscle fibres, you put stress on your cardiovascular system. It's actually when you're recovering that your body makes itself stronger and adapts to these challenges so that when you actually run the next time, you're stronger, you're able to go faster for longer, and that will hopefully translate to a much better performance on race day. So I thought that was interesting. You actually get better when you're recovering after your run, not during the run itself. Well, there you have it, guys. There are 9 tips for a successful long run. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Do you have any more tips for having a successful long run? Let me know. I'd love to hear them. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.
Thank you.